I remember the day I met Elara, not in a rush of cinematic glory, but in a quiet, almost ordinary hum of afternoon. It was at a small, cluttered bookstore, the kind that smells of old paper, dust motes dancing in the slanted sunlight, and something else, something indefinable, like potential. I was standing in the philosophy section, tracing the spine of a worn copy of Rilke, feeling the familiar, hollow ache of a life well organized but utterly uninspired. My world then was a monochromatic sketch, predictable work, sterile apartment, and a silence that had begun to feel like an eternal monument to my own emotional paralysis. Then, she was there. She reached for the same book. Our fingers brushed, a jolt, nothing less than an electrical current, that bypassed the layers of my carefully constructed solitude and went straight to the core. She pulled back instantly, her eyes, the startling, luminous green of a mossy forest floor after rain, lifting to mine. "Oh, excuse me," she murmured, a sound like wind chimes in a soft breeze. "I'd been looking for this edition everywhere. It's the one with the original translations." It's a favorite of mine, too," I stammered, feeling like a teenager who had just forgotten the use of basic punctuation. I, who prided myself on my articulate command of language, was reduced to this clumsy, inadequate phrase. Favorite. It was a word that felt too small, too mundane, for the magnitude of the feeling she had already ignited. She smiled then, and it wasn't just a polite social gesture, it was a slow, unfolding warmth that dissolved the grey corners of the bookstore, and, more significantly, the grey corners of my heart. "You know the lines, then," she said, holding the book loosely. "Perhaps all the dragons in our lives are only princesses who are waiting to see us act, just once, with beauty and courage." The quote wasn't just spoken, it was a challenge, a truth lobbed directly into my stagnant pool. I could only nod, suddenly seeing myself clearly, a man afraid to face his own dragons. We talked for 2 hours that afternoon, leaning against a towering shelf of forgotten biographies. She spoke of her work as an architect, how she sought not just to build structures, but to craft spaces that held human emotion and connection. I, a financial analyst, tried to articulate the geometric beauty I found in numbers, but mostly I spoke about the emptiness that felt like the true coefficient of my life. She didn't offer sympathy, she offered presence. Her gaze was a steady, unwavering light, not judging, but simply illuminating. That day, the first seed was planted. It was a terrifying, beautiful thing, this sudden, unexpected growth in the barren soil of my existence. The unfolding map. Our courtship was a study in contrasts, a slow, deliberate waltz of two people tentatively shedding their armor. I was the cautious geographer, charting every feeling, every implication. She was the brave explorer, always pushing toward the uncharted territory of vulnerability. On our third date, she took me to the observation deck of a skyscraper she had helped design. The city sprawled beneath us, an intricate circuit board of lights and lives. The wind whipped her hair across her face, smelling of sandalwood and possibility. "What scares you the most, Elias?" she asked, her voice barely audible above the wind's roar. I paused, looking at the distant, glittering chaos. "Being seen," I admitted, the confession tasting like ash on my tongue. "Truly seen. Because if you see the mess, the fear, the failure, you might leave." She turned, her hands cupping my face, anchoring me against the rushing world. "That is the difference between you and me, Elias," she whispered, her thumb stroking my cheekbone. "I don't just want to see the beautifully built structure. I want to see the blueprints, the stresses, the foundation. I want to be the one who knows where the cracks are, so I can help reinforce them." It was in that moment, under the vast, indifferent sky, that I realized Elara wasn't just a woman I was falling in love with, she was a refuge. She was the cartographer of my soul, mapping the dark, forgotten corners and naming them not as flaws, but as features. Our bond deepened quickly, an accelerated rhythm of shared life. We didn't just spend time together, we integrated. I learned that she drank her coffee black, loved the sound of trains in the distance, and cried without fail during old black and white movies. She, in turn, learned my habits, my nervous habit of lining up my shoes perfectly, my preference for silence when I was thinking, and the hidden joy I found in painting abstract watercolor landscapes I never showed anyone. We argued, too, the disagreements often stemming from my ingrained fear of loss. I would pull away, retreat into my neat, airless shell of logic and reason. "You're doing it again," she'd say, her voice tight with hurt and frustration. "You're building a wall out of silence. Tell me what you're feeling, Elias. I can handle the emotion, but I can't fight a ghost." It was a powerful lesson. Love, I learned, was not about perpetual harmony, it was about the courage to bridge the silence. It was about the messy, necessary work of showing up, even when you felt most inclined to run away. The fear of the abyss. A year into our life together, we faced a real challenge, a crucible that tested the mettle of our commitment. Elara was offered a dream project, designing a significant museum on another continent. It was the pinnacle of her career, the kind of opportunity that architects spend their entire lives chasing. The news hit me with the force of a physical blow, a chilling premonition of my old solitude returning. The fear was a tidal wave, I am not enough to keep her. We sat in our small living room, the city's pulse distant, the silence between us heavy with unspoken dread. "I have to take it, Elias," she finally said, her eyes shining with unshed tears and the fire of ambition. "This isn't just a job. It's the culmination of everything I've worked for. But I don't want to lose us." I looked at her, at the raw conflict etched on her face, the ambition warring with the love. And in that moment, I saw my dragon, the one Rilke spoke of, the fear of loss disguised as possessiveness. My old self wanted to beg her to stay, to demand that she choose me over her destiny. But the man Elara had helped me become knew better. I reached across the space and took her hand, squeezing it, trying to transfer my strength into her. "You have to go, Elara. I know you do." My voice was steady, but inside, my heart was a fragile glass globe, vibrating on the edge of shattering. "But long distance." "For 2 years," she whispered, the challenge suddenly tangible, monstrous. I looked down at our joined hands. Her palm, calloused from drafting, fitted perfectly into mine, a hand that spent its days building futures. "I used to believe that love was a physical proximity, a continuous presence," I said, choosing my words slowly, each one an act of will. "Now I know that love is the unwavering assurance of return. It's the constant pull of the two poles, no matter the distance between them. You are my North Star, Elara. Go build your masterpiece. I'll be here, living our life, waiting." It was the hardest, most necessary act of courage I had ever performed, choosing her dream over my comfort, choosing faith over fear. The day she returned was not a grand airport reunion from a movie. It was quiet, just like the day we met. I picked her up, and the moment she saw me, she didn't run, she walked quickly, purposefully, and melted into me. The scent of her, the sandalwood, the salt of tears, the faint smell of the foreign city she had conquered, was the scent of home. We stood there for a long time, holding each other in the gentle chaos of the terminal. "Did you miss me?" she whispered into my coat, her voice choked. I pulled back just enough to look into her eyes, those beautiful, forest-green depths, now alight with a certain, settled joy. "Miss you?" I repeated, a small, genuine laugh escaping me. "Elara, you were the air I breathed for 2 years. I didn't miss you. I lived the longing. It was the pulse of my every moment. You didn't just come home. You are the reason this place is home." That night, back in our quiet apartment, we weren't just lovers or long-distance partners, we were two halves finally made whole. We lay in bed, the sheets tangled, her head resting on my chest, listening to the rain outside. "What now, Elias?" she asked softly, tracing the lines of my collarbone. "What do we do with all this power?" I kissed the top of her head, inhaling her familiar scent, the scent of my future. "We build, Elara," I said, the words ringing with a deep, calm conviction I hadn't known I possessed before her. "You build cities, and I build worlds on canvas, but together. We build a legacy of joy. We live with the courage you taught me, and the faith I finally found. We face the dragons, together. And in the silence that followed, I closed my eyes and understood. My life before her was a beautiful, empty vessel. She was the sea, and in her depths, I had finally found my true, transformative self. She was the answer to the question I hadn't even known how to ask. She was the reason I woke up, the peace when I slept, and the powerful, driving love that made every single breath matter. She was my destiny, finally written out in the glorious, messy, undeniable script of our life together.